Thanks for joining us at BIB Today, the podcast from the Newsroom of Business in Vancouver. I'm Kirk LaPointe, publisher and executive editor. In recent weeks, the giant professional services firm Deloitte has opened a new Vancouver office, and it features a wide array of conveniences and inducements and attractions that do set a standard for the evolution of white-collar work in an era of remote work that's prompted by the pandemic. The company has learned from its other office renovations and launches across the country and elsewhere, and I thought it'd be time to get an assessment of what employers can really learn from Deloitte's experiences at the Deloitte Summit. Joining me today is Jodi Evans. She's managing partner for Deloitte in Vancouver. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Are you in one of 12,000 rooms there in the building?
I am. I'm in one of the smaller rooms. But yeah, we have some fantastic space.
You do have some fantastic space. I'm very envious. Anytime anyone does something like this, you have to ask, what problems are you trying to solve here? What problems of the workplace do you think that Deloitte has set out with the generation of a complex like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way we look at it is kind of what opportunities are there, right? Where can we lean in? Where can we have impact? And so there's probably, the two biggest dimensions there. There's one around sort of the future of work from our people standpoint, how they want to work, when they want to be in the office, what they want the experience to be like in the office. And there's the other side, and these things aren't mutually exclusive, but around obviously we're a client-facing business. Our whole world is about serving our clients. And so being really deliberate about bringing clients into our space, collaboration, connection, driving innovation. Those are kind of at the most macro level, the two big things that we're looking at. And then there's some really specific, components of design that enable those things.
Yeah, well, we can talk about the design here in a bit, but let's talk first off about the employees and what it is that you feel needed to be accommodated now, and how much of this is a creature of the pandemic and what we've learned in that time.
Yeah, so I feel like we just got, in some ways, maybe lucky with a pandemic, and not that we use those words, together very often, but we didn't really change our design because of the pandemic. So for instance, from an employee standpoint, there's our old office had big partner offices on the outside, and then you had sort of the cubicles on the inside. This design, there's no such thing as a partner office. If you're going to come into the office, we have an app, you book where you're going to sit. Our partners are sitting beside like an analyst in their practice, or you could be sitting. The other thing is from a One Deloitte standpoint, right? We have 5 different businesses: risk, audit, tax, consulting, financial advisory, you could be sitting beside someone from a different business. So it's the whole idea of One Deloitte and that collaboration, connection, opportunity to meet people, just have different conversations. And so this whole design is about that. And then it's not about going into specific office or a specific space and working on your laptop all day. It's much more about, maybe that's some of the experience, but it's much more around connecting with your colleagues, having conversations, sort of development, learning, growth. That said, like our offices, right? You have those up and down raising desks, you have dual monitors, ergonomic chairs, everything people would expect to have a positive working or ergonomic working environment as well.
Talk to me a little bit about what you think, what Deloitte thinks as well. Is the office today? What is it? What is its design, and what are we evolving out of and into? You think?
Yeah, right. Like, what's the purpose? What's it all about? And this is where we have another concept at Deloitte called My Work, My Way. And that can apply to a lot of things, right? Somebody who has to drop off their kid early or later in the morning, or pick up earlier or whatever. It's not about FaceTime or how long you're at your laptop or how long you're in the office. It's about getting your work done in a way that works for you. So we're not saying, you're not allowed to send emails after 7:00 at night, because for some people that actually works for them. So it's just saying what works for you is what we want to empower our people to do. And then that translates into obviously your experience, what you're doing, how you're working. But we don't want people, as I said, to come into the office and just heads down work and go home. You can do that anywhere. the idea is when you're coming to the office, it's about collaboration, it's about connection. It's like working with your peers, your teams, having those, natural collisions, whatever, by the coffee machine or in the staircase where you have these impromptu conversations. And then, of course, it's about clients. And so it's a very different interacting with clients. Before, we used to go to our clients Monday morning till Thursday afternoon, or for the duration of an audit engagement or whatever the project might be. And now it's very deliberate. Clients don't want us there all the time. And we don't necessarily need to be there all the time. So it's very much more deliberate around when you're in the office or when we're at a client and the types of conversations we're having and the type of work that we're doing.
I want to pick up on something you said right away, which was that actually you had a bit of this, or a lot of this design in mind, and then the pandemic struck. But what I wonder about is, were you ever worried during the pandemic that maybe you weren't even going to get this back?
For sure. I mean, we're still sort of wondering, like, what's it going to be like in 2, 3, 5 years from now, or even 6 months from now, right? So we just weren't sure. And Deloitte's taken a very, like I said, that my work, my way approach. We're not mandating days in the office at all. We're saying be in the office when you need to be in the office, and be at clients who need to be at clients. Now, we are encouraging people to come in. We don't believe that you can have a strong learning and growth experience and a strong work culture without people working together in an office environment. But we are definitely not mandating it. That said, right now in BC, we have the highest utilization across the country, and no doubt it's attributed. People like to be in a really funky space, right? That's very conducive to what they want to get done at work. And so we were lucky in terms of timing that we were opening up at our space as the pandemic was opening up, and then people were coming in, they were enjoying the experience, they were seeing people. The other thing we've done, which I'm super excited about and frankly proud of, we have a dog floor. So we have people who got dogs during the pandemic, right? We have people who are like, well, I'd like to come in, but it's hard with my dog. And so we're just in a pilot phase right now, but we're planning to open it up. And so we're trying to do things like that we have a bistro, we have a barista that really just support our people when they are in the office to just make it a super positive experience.
Do you think that what we're going through right now, Jodi, is not quite payback, but kind of a reorienting of what was lost over the course of probably a generation? And by I mean lost, I mean the amount of time you had away from the office was lost. We were expecting people to longer hours, take work home with them, be available, at night, be available on the weekends, be available even on holidays. And that now we're kind of recalibrating a little bit more sensibly.
I would say a massive recalibration. So I would agree with, it's really, when I came up through the firm, the way I thought compared to the way our young people now think, right? They have a very different expectation of work. They're not, when they need to work late or they need to do something on a weekend, they will, but it's not that same culture. It's just a different way of thinking. Deloitte also has this concept of Deloitte days. We have 11 additional holidays in a year where the whole firm takes it off, right? And it's usually a Friday or a Monday before weekend. Sometimes it extends a long weekend. And we've continued putting those in this year. We're saying every year we're evaluating, we're determining what makes sense. But our people love those. And the thing that's great about them is everybody takes them. When you take vacation, everybody's still working. It's harder to shut down. But those Deloitte days are a real opportunity for the whole firm shuts down. That said, we're in a client business. So some people don't have that luxury. Sometimes you have a demanding client situation you obviously have to support. But overall, those things have had a big impact. And that's been a lot of there's a different culture and a different world out there around work and expectations of work.
A delicate question. I mean, I can understand where this is probably a pretty easy sell for your employees. What about your clients? When they say, gee, look at all the things they're doing over there. Are any of them ever there? Is anybody doing any work? Yeah.
So, I would say, yes, we get that question. So for instance, we do a lot of technology work, big projects, big go lives, sometimes around a long weekend. Obviously, those people are working. So we have to do it in a way that doesn't impact our clients. It's interesting. Some clients are like, as long as you can, give me confidence you're delivering, generally they're okay. And some clients are even like, wow, they think it's a good thing. We obviously need to manage it. We need to make sure we're doing the work we need to do. But I would say overall, most clients are really supportive. There's a caveat to that, as long as the work's getting done. And overall, our people, obviously just love it.
Are we redefining what productivity is throughout all this?
So I would say we're redefining productivity is not how many hours you're in the office or how many hours you're on your laptop, right? So there is, if you're saying like, there used to be this, like, if you're not even, we had people, it was hard to, I would say before the pandemic, some areas of our business weren't as comfortable with people working at home as others, because there was this, like, if you're not in the office, then you can't be working hard. You're not productive. So I think we have
monitor your keystrokes at the other end.
Exactly. So from that standpoint,
yes. It doesn't have you in there when I go to surveillance on you, then you're cheating us, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I think we're saying, like, we're not looking for the FaceTime in the same way, or the hours on your keyboard, or, the presence, who arrived first in the morning and leave last in the evening. I think that world has largely gone away. So, but, productivity, getting work done, and that's a big thing. And it's critical. I think too, from Deloitte's standpoint, we're also trying to get away from power by the hour. We're trying to say, pay us based on outcomes, pay us based on impact. Like, don't, it's not like X number of hours times X number of rate, you pay us that. It's like, here's what we need to commit to. Here's what we need to deliver. Hold us accountable for that. And that's like based on value. And clients want that conversation, but there's still complexity in, how we actually define that and how we contract that. But everyone, like, fundamentally agrees. And that's about productivity, right? Because that's what clients want. They want value and outcomes for what they're paying Deloitte.
Still sounds to me, though, as if you had to do a little bit of an adjustment to a business model in order to get into this era here.
Yes, to some degree, right? Because the traditional model is very much like hours, rates, which equates to, how much are you sitting at your laptop? How much time are you spending on something? And so there has definitely been an adjustment, but I think it's all for the better. It's better for our people. It's better for our clients. It can be a win-win overall. There is complexity in figuring out, though, because it's big cultural change. It's like you have a lot of partners who have been working a certain way for a long time, and you have clients who've been hiring professional service, in different firms for a long time. So for sure, there's an adjustment. But I think overall, it's for the better, and most people recognize that there's still some complexities to work through. I's to dot, T's to cross.
Yeah, I've got an office here. If I lose it, I think I'm not going to be happy, right?
So I'm noticing a lot of paper too. That's what, right? When you don't have an office, like, you can't have paper. Everything has to be in like a little laptop bag.
Yeah, I get that. I would have to have a little knapsack of some sort, or a trolley of goods. But it is true that you also have to level with people in your own organization to say, here's the culture that we wish now to apply and develop. And I wonder, how are you helping those people that maybe are a little, little less excited about the idea that they don't have these four walls around them that blocks out noise and keeps people from bothering them all day long?
Yeah, I think the good thing about for the transition for the BC practice, and this is sort of how you opened the conversation, Kirk, is like, we have done this in other offices where we've moved to this type of a model where, like, our CEO in Toronto, who lives in Toronto, Canadian-wide CEO, does not have an office. So he also books on an app. The Montreal office went there. The Halifax office went there. We moved from Bentall into an interim space on Granville Street, and we didn't have offices then. So that transition from Bentall to Granville was more difficult. And I would say more for some of our practices like audit and tax, who just more traditionally have more paper and had, weren't out as much as, some of the consulting people have been doing that for a long time because they were at clients Monday to Friday anywhere, Monday to Thursday. But we had that transition model, and it's happened in other offices. So it's actually been, I would say, relatively easy in terms of our move to Deloitte Summit. We haven't had that change management complexity.
Yeah. It's still early in the game, but do you have new criteria by which you are going to measure success with this?
In terms of, I think the way we look at it, and you mean like our overall move to this office and this design and how's it working?
to understand if it's paying off? What are the kinds of things to look for over time?
There's a few things. I'll say that the talent and the client side, those, like I said, not mutually exclusive. There's definitely a Venn diagram there, but if I kind of speak to those, there's those two pieces. There's pure like utilization. How much are people coming into the office? Just the fact that we have the highest utilization across the country, I think tells us that something's working there, right? The other side of things, we do these pulse surveys, employee pulse surveys across the country. We do them every quarter. We've been doing them really actively before the pandemic, but sort of the timing really ramped up. And ironic timing is I just got the results this morning for our practice, and our pulse survey results, our employees, it's things, like how connected are you, or how engaged, how much are you doing the right work? There's these like 5 or 6 different core questions that we're asking, and our results are up in terms of from agree to strongly agree, or disagree to strongly disagree, are up quite in the positive across those dimensions on the questions like that. So I think that's telling us, and it's relative. We do these nationally across the country. BC's up higher. We've improved in certain areas higher than across the country. So if I kind of look at the talent side, and then of course, just like the feedback from our people is like, I love this. Another thing I'll say that was really interesting, we had an open house in like September, October timeframe, or actually it was November for our people. And we said, come in on a Saturday, bring whoever you want. Just, it was basically pizza and sodas and cookies. And like people showed up with their entire families, their aunts, their uncles, their grandparents. Like there were grandparents with like three-piece suits on. They were super proud of the office, and they wanted to share with their families. They wanted to share their work environment. So on the people side, sort of these, it's not everything's quantitative, but when you kind of put together what is quantitative with qualitative, it feels like we're in a really good spot with this. And it feels like we've moved in the right direction.
Yeah, obviously for some people, it's because work is such a defining characteristic of identity.
Yes.
And the pandemic shifted that right away to it. Are you starting to suss out what you think the new identity looks like with people in general?
It's interesting. I don't know if I'm sure if you asked my human capital colleagues that question, they would probably have a far more sophisticated answer than me. But I think we're just seeing some of these things, like we call it a talent value proposition, right? What's important to people. And it's like bring your whole self to work, right? That's whole inclusion, people feeling included regardless of, who they are, how they want to work, what's important to them personally. That's super important, right? And this, I feel like our design and the way we're operating and our business model around, we're not forcing people to come in, but they have the option to come in. When you come in, you can work in like a studio space that's more open, vibrant. I would say some people might call it noisy. There's also what we call library space. So you want quiet time. You have more of a curved kind of workspace around you, so there isn't as much external noise. And it's all these different things that we're enabling.
A room with a prayer rug.
Yeah, exactly. So we have this, we have a prayer room and it has a foot wash basin for our Muslim colleagues. There's another room for, breastfeeding mothers who need to pump. There's a wellness room. We have a recharge station it's a HIIT, spin, yoga, meditation. It's a Deloitte only space on P1 where you can do workout classes, whatnot. There's also a weight room. There's a bike room for people bringing their bike. We have a great partnership with BCAA around Evo and electric bikes. So we're trying to do different things to bring our people into office. Like I said, our barista and our bistro, we have a lot of plant-based options with our food. Our people, they want that. It's important to them. Climate sustainability, one of the key design principles in our building that shows up in like our food strategy, even just the plants that we have in the office, the recycling, the waste management. Our coffee, we have a coffee machine with oat milk. Like these are a latte machine with oat milk. So we have a lot of different things that we're doing that are about employee experience, but sort of hit these other elements that are really important to our people as well.
Do you have a room for a journalist who's a beer hockey beer league hockey player?
Well, we are hoping we have a rooftop deck that is phenomenal, where we are hoping to host, I'll say certain events. There's a big screen just one level down where we can watch hockey games, go up for a beer on the deck. So we'll make sure you get invited to that.
Don't let your employees play pickleball. It's a rabbit hole. You'll never get them back.
I've heard that.
One other thing. I mean, for all of the planning that went on, it was very conscious. You've had other facilities that have been built. You've learned from them. Anything surprised you so far?
I think one of the things is just we probably need more dual monitor workstations. We are at max capacity a couple of days a week with people booking those. So we have this idea of workstations where you have to book them on app, but there's also a lot of touchdown space. More, you can come and work for a couple hours or go do something else, but it's not as formal as the dual monitor workstation. So we probably need more of those than we'd planned. We've also had more growth than we had planned when we designed the building. And same thing for phone booths. So we have these rooms that are super funky. You can go and have a quick conversation. You don't have to book it. You just go in and do a quick call or have a quick meeting with a colleague. And we're finding that we need more smaller spaces. So we're actually looking at one of our next build out, which will be in Calgary. And those are two key things. So I was just talking to my equivalent in Calgary and saying, make sure you think about those things. And those are things we can actually adjust with the build too. They're not major, we don't have to tear open a floor plate to fix some of those things.
Yeah, and one last thing, and I think this is very, very common in office spaces everywhere, is that certain people want confidence. They don't want their phone calls being overheard. They don't want their conversations being overheard, and all that. Are people loosening up on that a little bit, do you think?
No, I don't think they are, especially in our business where privacy, client confidentiality is so important. I think it's just there's ways to have a phone call that can be like the person beside you can't hear you. So there's the odd situation where somebody's really loud and everyone's like, hey, quiet. But overall, and of course it depends on the degree of confidentiality. That's why those phone booths are really important. So if you have a really, confidential client conversation, then you're going to go to one of those rooms or you're going to find a space where you can be quiet. Otherwise, there's a lot of calls, they're internal Deloitte calls, or you're just having a quick catch up with a client on something where it can be, I would say, the right degree of confidentiality. And if someone overhears it, it's not a big deal, but people are working and doing their own thing anyway. So we're very conscious of the need for that, but I think it's pretty easy to find that balance in the design that we have. But to your point, I think before people are like, well, I can't have a call, and I don't know, like this confidentiality, I think we find a way to really make that work and be respectful of that.
All right. So last question, you're the managing partner. My guess is that you spent a lot of hours in the old facilities. You've had to spend probably a lot of hours in getting this launched. So do you think you end up spending more hours or fewer hours eventually at the office?
It's interesting. It depends on how you look at it. I love being here. Like, it is so energizing. It's fun. Like, the space is fantastic. And especially after a pandemic, being able to run into people, have conversations. On the other hand, like, I like to be at home a day a week, and I never would have done that before, right? So that it's not like I'm at home 3 days a week, but I try to work from home a day a week. And even we try to model that a little bit. We try to say to our partners, if you're there 5 days a week, are you sending the right message to people who maybe have I have a 10-year-old a little bit, I'll say later in life. So from being there to, when he gets home from school, even I have to jump back on calls and things like that. And I have 2 dogs. So that's another, I would say, personal complexity, but I'm looking forward to getting the dogs in the office when they're behaved. So yeah,
dogs have never been healthier in the last year.
Exactly.
The whole species, I think now they're like developing a whole new capacity.
I agree. But no, overall, like you talk to people, they love being here. It is just such a fantastic space, and it has a great vibe and great energy. So it's definitely a fun place to be.
Well, it is a fun place to be. I've been there a couple of times. It's quite nice. Good talking to you, Jodi. Good luck with all of it. Don't let the business fall apart with people goofing off and, sleeping
No, I think we're safe.
Okay, that's good.
I think
Jodi
we're
Evans.
good there. I think it's more the more positive. You know what I say too? Like anytime you want to come here for lunch, let me know. Like we want people to bring. We have the lunch area. We have this Bristol. It's on the 22nd floor. We want people like bring, of course, bring your clients, bring your friends, bring your wife, your boyfriend. Like we want this to be the place to be. We want people to love being here and just create more positive momentum. So anytime you want to come, just let me know.
Sounds like you should be City Hall. Anyway, we'll leave that one alone. Jodi, good to see you. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Take care.
Jodi Evans is the managing partner at Deloitte here in Vancouver. I'm Kirk LaPointe, publisher and executive editor at VIB. Thanks a lot for watching.